It's just like, what is that? Like, go sit on a bar stool, square bar stool backwards, and then try and like pretend you're riding a motorcycle. It's just not cool. It's like, It's disgusting. Hey guys, I am super damn excited to share this whole process I'm about to embark on with you. It's some totally uncharted territory for me, which kind of scary, but to be honest, really exciting. The bike I'm going to be working on, I'll tell you about in a minute, but as you know, a lot of bikes I built, I really haven't cataloged or chronicled that whole process. I haven't taken you with me. And I really want to get you guys involved on this next build. I want to take you with me through that process and share with you all the steps that I go through. I mean, I'm probably going to fuck some shit up, and that's going to be fun because you fuck shit up and you learn lessons, right? But you're going to be there to see it all. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel because I will be doing more of these. This whole build, I'm going to share every step of the way with you. And it's going to be fun. There's going to be thrills, spills, and chills. Also, what's going to be super unique about this build is as I go through, I'm going to be inventing parts for it. So I'm going to need your guys' help and feedback on what I should do for this bike, like what parts I should make. It's going to be everything from gas tanks, handlebars, risers, intake, tins, all that kind of stuff, like forward controls, foot controls, jockey shift, suicide clutch. I mean, the sky is the freaking limit. So I'm going to be actually doing R&D. You're going to get to see firsthand how I research and develop new parts for a bike as I go along. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure those parts get to production for you guys so you have really cool parts to use with your builds. So the bike I'm going to be working on is Honda Shadow VT750 Phantom 2010 model. So right away, this bike has some shit that I really don't like. There's a lot of things that are great, don't get me wrong, but the tank just digs into your crotch. The seat is not super comfortable. There's a lot that needs to change right away. So that's what we're going to cover in this episode. Right now on this bike, I'm kind of feeling something a little low, a little more bulldog-ish, if you will. Something low to the ground, maybe fat tires front and rear. Definitely a cruiser. I'm not going to probably put big bars on it or skeletonize too much of it. But again, that's where your guys' comments and the polling is going to come into play. So today we're going to really focus on something super simple, but taking a seat off and taking a tank off. So what you're going to need to do all that is just a few little things. You're going to need a 5mm Allen wrench. I have an Allen on a socket because it's going to make things quicker today. I have these 12mm and 13mm sockets. And I have some super cheap fluid hose clamps. You guys can pick up a set at Harbor Freight. They're very inexpensive, but very helpful. The reason you will need the hose clamps is because an EFI system is pressurized. Unlike a carbureted bike, which has a petcock, you can just shut it off and pinch off the hose. You've got some pressure here. So there is going to be some gas spilling. Honda in the manual has a process for draining that fuel pump thing, but the couple times I've done it, it's never worked. So I'll take you through the process of how to do it and get a little gas on your hands. So maybe that's a smell you like. I don't hate it. But let's get started on this, okay? On these seats, there's typically 3 bolts. However, somebody got their hands on this before I did. So through this process, you're going to see some things that are not stock. So if you have a stock bike and you're like, well, I don't have that. Well, it's because some dingleberry already hacked into this thing. So the one thing we're missing today is that 1 bolt right at the back of your seat. So if you have that, you can pull that out. The next thing to do is pull these bolts out on both sides of the seat. That's your 13mm socket. There you go. Seat comes off super easy after that. You just kind of lift the rear up and swing it back. Ta-da! Now remember what I was saying about somebody hacking into this before I even got to it? You can tell really easily by looking at this thing. So it appears that somebody wanted to take the fender and scoot it forward. They thought it was sticking out too far back. So you can see the original mounting hole right here. They drilled some new ones and then hacked this off with a real quality tool, looks like. Next thing we're going to do is remove the bolt at the back of the tank here. This is a 12mm socket. I'm just going to make a note to you guys here. This is something I got to share with you. Anytime you start the threads of a bolt, a nut, a screw, a spark plug, do not use something like this. Use your hands, start the threads. As something's threading in, okay, you got positive thread, great, now you can do it. I really only try to use this for disassembly, because if you start trying to assemble stuff with this, there's torque values, torque specs that you need to pay attention to, especially when you're reassembling a motor, because some of those bolts are designed to only take a certain amount of pressure. And this is not a scientifically adjusted tool. It's just kind of a big fucking hammered electronic thing that gets the job done fast. So, take this bolt out. And now we're going to move on to the speedometer. So when you take your speedometer off here, there is a clip. You can see that right there. There's a little tab here. You're just going to bend this up. That'll allow this part to be released. And you got to pinch this little fucker. There we go. So now your speedometer is disconnected from your bike. Now, I don't know if you can hear this. Well, there's still quite a bit of gas in that thing. So when we take all these hoses off, shit's gonna spray if you're not careful. If you just start pulling shit off, you're gonna have a pretty big mess. But in anticipation of this event, I have placed this handy dandy drain pan down here to hopefully catch some of that mess. So before we do this, I'm going to put some gloves on. No glove, no love. If you take a look at this fuel pump here, you can see something that I've already had to modify. This right here, this little spot, this is a brass fitting right now, and if you take the seat off your bike at stock, you're going to find a plastic nipple sticking up, and it's got a quick release EFI thing on it, and I'll be honest with you guys, it's a total joke. Like, I wrestled with it for 2 hours trying to get the fucking thing off, and I eventually just cut the hose and threaded it for 1/8 inch NPT and threaded that into the fuel pump. Not really the preferred method for setting up a fuel injection system, but that's what I had to do to make it get down the road. So right here, this little plug, this is your power to the fuel pump. This fuel pump is a giant freaking can that goes down below the frame, but you're going to unplug this. It's really easy to plug in and unplug. There's just a little clip right here. Turn around and you can see it right there. You just push that and it releases off the plug. So if you can see these little guys here, let me move around so I can give the camera a little better view. And take a look at these little hose clamps here. This is basically your fuel coming from the gas tank. Then you have this going to your throttle body, and this is your return line. Now, somebody already removed a vent line, which is back here on the back side of the tank. It's a little tiny, like 1/4 inch looking hose, like right under there. There's a little nipple sticking out. And somebody already pulled that off. That's something you guys are also going to want to undo. So, to prevent this from going everywhere, we use our little fluid clamps. So you just open them up like this. And you're going to swing this around here. Actually, I'm going to use the big fat one just because I'm going to need to get the smaller ones in closer. Okay, so now that you've pinched that off, you're still going to get fuel flow coming out of here, but we will address this in a moment. So now you're going to get some pliers, and you're going to take these little hose clamps here, you're going to pinch them and lift them up the hose. This is a really fun process. Well, that one went really freaking easy. The other one over here is not as easily accessible. Ah, that one was easy too. Well, the chopper gods are with us today. So now you're going to use your other hose clamps. These are fluid clamps. They're not hose clamps. They're fluid clamps. They're all different sizes, but it doesn't really matter as long as it pinches off the flow of fluid through a hose. That's what's important. So we take this guy, hook it over here, and we're going to do the other one on the return line here. Really hard to see this stuff sometimes, especially if you're trying to film it. So I try to do my best to keep my hands out of the way and not look like a complete troglodyte here. So the first line I'm going to pull off is my return line. So see if we get any fluid out of here. These are on there pretty tight, so I'm gonna have to get a hose pliers. So all you gotta do is stick this between your surface and a hose and just boop, and it pops the hose off. Real handy. So I'm gonna get this in here. Squeakity squeak. And I'm just gonna go real slow to make sure it's not blowing everywhere. Yep, we're good. So we've removed this hose from this. It is leaking, stuff's coming out. So if you want, you can get some vacuum plugs and plug these off if gas is a serious concern to you. Now we're gonna unplug the other hose. Nice and easy does it. There we go. A little bit of fluid coming out of that one. And I'm gonna thread it back through here. So this is where all your fuel comes from when it's going into the fuel pump. So I'm gonna drain all this into a gas tank. All right, so I've drained as much gas as I can out of the tank. If you shake the bike a little, I can still hear there's some gas in there, and I could sit here probably shaking it for an hour and more little gas would come out, but most of it's out, it's not draining anymore. So what I'm gonna do to save myself time is put another fluid clamp on. This will prevent any extra gas in the tank from dripping all over the place. Back to the task at hand here. You've plugged off everything, you've disconnected all this crap and pinched off your hoses. This little return line, you're just gonna thread it out from underneath the frame. Ta-da! And now, for the big reveal of removing the gas tank. Lift it up, scooch it back. Shazam! Now something I should mention to you guys before we move on here, and I'll kind of hold the tank up for you so it's a little easier to see. You can see there's this, this brass fitting here with two prongs sticking out of it, and you're gonna see these. There's a green and a black, green wire and black with white stripe that are plugged into it. This is your fuel level send unit. That's gonna tell your bike that, it's gonna tell your dummy lights, hey, you're low on gas. So I don't like dummy lights. I've always been a big fan of the Steve McQueen gas gauge where you open the cap and shake it a little bit and you're like, yeah, I could jump over that barbed wire. So you can disconnect that. If you're gonna maintain your Speedo, don't get rid of this, and you're gonna make sure you wanna mark where each of these was connected so you can connect it back the same way it was stock. So today we have removed a gas tank from a 2010 Honda Shadow VT750 Phantom. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Peace.